Hi guys, Miss Francis here to give you an exploration regarding the different types of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration can occur whether or not oxygen is present. Despite oxygen being present or not, all types of cellular respiration start with glycolysis. However, I can have aerobic respiration where oxygen is present, or anaerobic respiration, also known as fermentation, if oxygen is absent. The overall reaction for aerobic respiration is as follows, where the reverse of this equation is the equation for photosynthesis, which is our next unit. Now, once glycolysis occurs, there are three different pathways that an organism could potentially take. So let's first review glycolysis, right? In glycolysis, you have glucose, which is a 6-carbon sugar that's going to be converted into pyruvate, known as pyruvic acid, a 3-carbon sugar. So we're going to get 2 of them. From glycolysis, we also get 2 NADH, and we get a net yield of 2 ATPs. Because during glycolysis, even though we made 4 ATPs, we required 2 ATPs as activation energy. So our net yield is 2 ATPs. Following glycolysis, there are 3 pathways that an organism can take. 2 of those pathways include when oxygen is absent. And it depends on the type of organism I am. So for example, if I am a yeast, I would follow this first pathway and I would perform alcoholic fermentation, where it is a 2-step process that's going to give us ethanol or alcohol and carbon dioxide. Yeast, for example, will do this process. So when you're eating bread, those holes in the bread are actually trapped carbon dioxide. Well, why don't I get drunk when I eat bread? It's because the alcohol is burned off during the heating process of the bread. The same reason why if you eat penne alla vodka, you're not going to get drunk from the vodka. The alcohol burns off when it's being cooked. Now, the second pathway that an organism can follow is known as lactic acid fermentation. This is also a type of respiration that would be done in the absence of oxygen. It would be performed by bacteria, molds, and mammals like humans in oxygen debt, where in a 1-step process, you would create lactic acid. Now, once time has passed and we have oxygen present in the atmosphere, we also have organisms that have evolved to have mitochondria, such as eukaryotes. Now we're able to do aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration includes the link reaction, Krebs cycle, ETC, chemiosmosis. And from doing aerobic respiration, I'm going to get 34 ATP. So when I do anaerobic respiration, I get 2 ATP. When I do aerobic respiration, I get 36 ATP. So which came first, aerobic or anaerobic? Well, anaerobic, starting with glycolysis, because there's no oxygen in those in the early atmosphere. Furthermore, the first organisms that involved didn't have mitochondria, so they couldn't do aerobic respiration. So here's a summary. Glycolysis is going to take place in the cytosol, which means it's going to happen in all organisms, regardless if they're doing anaerobic or aerobic respiration. There are 3 pathways that an organism can then take once they produce that pyruvate, which comes from doing glycolysis. An organism can do alcoholic fermentation or lactic acid fermentation, both anaerobic processes, which obviously would take place in the cytosol. Alcoholic fermentation would be done by yeast. Lactic acid fermentation would be done by bacteria, mold, humans in oxygen debt. The third pathway that an organism can pass through after they produce pyruvate after doing glycolysis is aerobic cellular respiration, which involves the link reaction, Krebs cycle, ETC, and then chemiosmosis. In my next video, we'll get into the details of the two different types of fermentation.